We're going to give people just a minute or two to join. And for people who I haven't met yet, I'm Ethan. I lead docs here at Mintlify. I see some familiar names and faces. I think we've talked about docs and Mintlify before. If we haven't met yet, excited to meet you today. Um, Always available if you have questions about using Mintlify or technical writing. You can email me at ethan@mintlify, or if we've got a Slack channel together, tag me there. And in just another minute, we'll get going. Just in case there's anyone, we'll give them a till 1:02. Throughout this webinar, Perry, who is our head of product marketing, will be looking at the chat. So if you do have questions while I'm speaking, please feel free at any time to put them in the chat. I'm going to try to also monitor it, but since I will be sharing my screen and also admitting our guests, I may miss some of the chat questions, but Perry is standing by to make sure any questions get flagged. And then we also have Leland with us. He's one of the engineers who worked on the agent suggestions. So he'll be able to answer any technical questions people have. And when we get to the Q&A portion at the end, if you've got any questions for him, as well as for me, we're both happy to share what we know. Cool. And as people are arriving, I'm just going to give a quick introduction. This is recorded, so if you're watching this later because you missed the very beginning, hello, welcome. Like I said, I'm Ethan. I lead the docs here. I think some of you may have joined a couple of months ago for our webinar about using the agent. And this is a follow-up to that, now sharing about agent suggestions, formerly known as autopilot. Some of you may have heard of the feature when it had that name when it first released and be wondering what happened. We changed the name mostly because we didn't want to make people have to learn a new name for something. Autopilot doesn't immediately tell you what it does, but agent suggestions is pretty to the point. So I'm going to show where the suggestions appear in your dashboard, a couple ways that you can use them in your workflow, and also how to customize them so they can monitor different repositories. And then if you have any questions about how you might use in your workflow, how it works under the hood, that's what Leland's here for, and we'd be happy to talk about it. We'll go for about 25 minutes, but if you have questions afterwards, please reach out to the Mintlify team. We're here to help. All right, so I'm going to share my screen, and you will see the Mintlify dashboard. So if you have agent suggestions enabled, you're going to see them as a counter here in the dashboard. I have 14 right now. I discourage people from letting them linger forever, but since I was giving a webinar, I want to make sure we had a lot of good examples to share with you all. If you click the Ask Agent panel when you have suggestions, you'll be able to see a whole list. So this is generated because the agent can monitor repositories that you approve it for. And when it detects a change that it believes is user-facing and warrants an update to your documentation, it will create a suggestion formatted like this, where it tells you a title of what's changing. It links you to the pull request, tells you when it was created, and then it has a list of suggestions on how it would update the documentation. From here, you can either add this as a prompt for the agent to create a pull request, or you could edit the prompt a bit before you submit it. I'll show you that in a minute. Or you could dismiss the suggestion. For example, I know some of these have already been documented. So for example, the Discord bot documentation for custom channels, that's in our documentation. I'm just going to dismiss it and it goes away. Just to note, once you dismiss a suggestion, it is gone. Like the PR isn't touched. You can still find that context in GitHub, or if you use another Git repository. However, it will not appear again in your suggestions. So if you see a suggestion that you want to include, though, you simply click Add to Chat, and then we have a prompt that formats it so it is well constructed for the agent to create a pull request off of. It also, you'll see here, links again to the pull request. You can click this, it'll submit it to the agent, and then while it's working, it will Ultimately, open a pull request that you can then look at on GitHub or in your web editor. And while this is running, I just want to share a couple ways that I've been using the agent suggestions and how it could fit into your workflows. For me, I kind of see it as an extra set of eyes where I do my best to keep up with what's shipping at Mintlify, but sometimes people do create features that no one told me about, and that may be familiar to other technical writers. When I scroll through the agent suggestions, I can get another sort of sense of, okay, I know this happened. I've never heard of this. And either right there, I can create a pull request like it just happened here, or it has all the context to go find who created the pull request. Maybe I can send them a message, or even since we're in person, walk over, chat with them, see if how the feature works, what I need to test it, whether it's fully done, or if I need to do a little more research to understand it. So another option is for people on your team who want to contribute to the docs, but maybe they're not as comfortable with technical writing, like opening a whole blank page or even finding where in your documentation they should make an update might be challenging. This will help them get to maybe 60 or 80%. So they can, if they have access to your dashboard, they can use the agent, find the pull request they opened, share that with you or whoever else on your team is appropriate to edit it and get it so it's ready to publish. So now I'm going to click View Pull Requests. It's going to take us to GitHub. And you can see that it has opened a pull request with me as the author. The agent will attribute, if you connect your GitHub account, to the person who has triggered it, rather than just saying like the Mintlify bot. You may have seen that in the past. This is a newer feature. It also says what has changed, gives you a summary, and then links to both the pull request and it'll tag the person who authored the pull request that triggered this. In this case, I can see that Ricardo has already commented on it, probably saying that this isn't quite ready yet and that it's part of a larger update. However, if you're working and you need to make sure that whoever created a feature reviews it, this tagging of them will make sure their eyes get on it, or at least help be another way to encourage that they review it. Also, if you click open an editor, it's going to keep you in the dashboard and it opens the editor and you can see it's open to the branch with this update. I would have to open that page and then make other updates. I'll also say at this point that for any time you're using a suggestion, I recommend creating a new chat so that it has fresh context. You can iteratively add to the prompt. However, if you're working on two completely separate features, it's helpful to keep the context more clean so that you're not conflating multiple different pull requests that aren't related. I'm going to pause here before we get into configuration just to see if there are any questions.
Yeah, there's one more in the chat from Aaron, building off a question asking if the repo needs to be public or private, saying, I saw in the docs that the agent would need read-write access. Is it possible to only give it read permissions?
Yeah, so it can monitor a private repository. And in fact, the one that I demoed from is a private repo. In terms of read and write process, Lynn, if you want to answer, I believe it does need the write process to function fully.
Yeah, currently we only support repositories that our GitHub app has access to, and like right now, the permissions for the GitHub app is read and write permissions. So, in order for the agent to work, we would need like both read and write access.
Yeah, which is a nice segue into how do you configure this. If you click the gear button, the settings button in your agent panel, you will be able to see both the GitHub organizations that are connected and the repositories. Mine is loading slightly slowly right now, probably because it's a webinar and a demo, and that's how it goes. But once we also have, I would say, hopefully you're not connecting 1,800 repositories to yours, but I've only enabled 2 repositories in our Mintlify org, and you can configure however many you want. The GitHub app also is granular enough that if you work in a mono repository, you don't have to give it your entire source code. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Leland. But if you want to add more repositories, you would just select the organization and then you can toggle them on and off. I'm not going to adjust any because this is our live org. And then you can create a new chat. you can go look at your suggestions. And anyone who has access to your Mintlify dashboard will be able to see this panel. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment and want to invite more question and answers. I believe if you want to type them in the chat, please feel free to do that. If you'd like to come off mic and ask that way, please just raise your hand. I see one question in the chat right now, which is, does this work for other systems such as GitLab, Azure DevOps? Leland, do you want to discuss that a little bit?
Yeah, currently we only support GitHub repos, but we are like working on some GitLab integrations. So that's like scoped for possibly the next month.
Yeah, and if there is another system that you're using, we would love to hear it. Your feedback helps us know what we should prioritize to build out.
I have a question. So I am using Mintlify today to update my docs, and when I ask agent, when I click on that, it says enable it and get early access, and then it redirects me to scheduling sometime on the calendar. So is that the typical workflow to get it enabled?
Yeah, currently that is the workflow to get enabled. We will also be sharing for everyone attending this some follow-up information with information on signing up for a demo.
Okay, thanks.
And if signing up for a call doesn't fit your time, you can always send an email to us or reach out via Slack if you have a Slack channel with us, and we'd be happy to help you asynchronously that way.
Makes sense. Thanks.
All right. And if I missed one of your questions in the chat, please let me know. And not to put you too much on the spot, Leland, but are there any future improvements coming that you're able to speak about now?
Yeah, I mean, some of the like features that we're going to be adding within the next couple days are email and Slack notifications. So when a new suggestion comes in, this is also like something that you can configure on your dashboard, but you'd be able to receive a Slack notification that enables you to update the docs and call the agent directly within Slack, just with one button click. And then we'd also have email notifications that allow you to click on it and then direct you to the dashboard to update suggestions.
Yeah, and I can speak a bit to the Slack notification since we have been demoing it internally so far. And it leads to a couple different ways that you can work with this. Either if you want to stay up to date on every suggestion as it comes in, that's an option. Or I find it more effective to batch them, similar to how I'll go through feedback about our documentation. And I find that rather than trying to switch context every time, it's helpful to just treat it as a review cycle of making sure that you haven't missed any bugs or small updates that need to happen. And I see the question from Marcos in the chat. The agent is available on Pro and Custom plans, I believe. But it is also something that if you're curious about demoing, if you reach out to us, we're always happy to make sure people can try the tools that will help them have the most success. Can I demonstrate today? So today, the agent cannot capture screenshots. The question was, can I demonstrate how the agent may update screenshots of a feature? This agent cannot currently capture screenshots. That would have to be done with another automation tool. Probably, so just like perhaps Playwright or that's what comes to my mind. It might be a little heavy of a solution there. And I think there are some other options.
Yeah. Kind of adding on to that, that's something that's not currently supported, but we are planning on adding support for being able to input photos as well as like use those inputted photos to actually make updates.
Yeah, thank you. And Elena, I see your question. Is there a trial period? Yes, that will information on how to sign up for a demo will be included in the follow-up after this webinar. Or if you go on your dashboard now and you can schedule a time to speak with someone on our team to get access. And Julia has a question. Is there a way to add extra context to the agent so it has a better idea of what to generate? Yeah, there's a few options there. So the agent can read from an agents.md file. So if you want to have persistent context applied to every interaction with it, creating an agents MD file is a good way to do that. You can include information about like if you only want code samples in a single language, or if you have any specific practices for your documentation, that will apply to everything. Or you can add that extra context in the agent panel. I'll share my screen again and share that. And this would be for a specific request. So I'm going to go back to the example we used earlier. So it starts with this prompt that was added from applying the suggestion. However, if I choose any other one, I'll show how you can customize that before you submit it. So if I wanted to modify this, I could add any additional context I wanted here. We found that this style for the initial prompt works well and produces consistent results. However, any custom context you want to add to individual requests based on your documentation is always appropriate, especially if you know that something about your documentation is unique or has worked well for you in the past with prompting. You can add it here before you apply a suggestion. And then, so I see there's some follow-up. When the agent is making suggestions about new features it finds, is it code specific? Leland, if you want to, I think it can read any language.
It's the agent just has read access to your code base, so it's able to just see the diff, right, from the PRs that are coming in. Regardless of the language, it's able to like see what was added, read comments, read context that was in the PR description. So yeah, like regardless of the language, it should still be able to update your docs effectively.
And I will note with that, if you're working on maybe like a complex tutorial that pulls across like 3 different features in your product or has a user need that is not directly linked to something that is in your code base, I would encourage writing those sorts of documents yourself because providing all the necessary context for that is still quite challenging for any AI tools. So this is as a technical writer, I think in every one of these webinars, I always at some point have to say, you shouldn't automate absolutely everything. There's still quite a bit of room for human writing, especially in those tutorials or pages that are going to include multiple different products at once. And we have one more question. For the agent to work, it should have access to the code repo, or can it provide the context with no reference to the code changes? Yeah, so to get the suggestions, it'll need access to the source code that's changing. However, you don't need to connect that. You can use the agent only on your documentation repository, in which case you would provide the context in the prompt. And you would say, you could either do that in the dashboard, you could set an automation using the agent API, or engage with it in Slack as well. And then another question, when you add additional context through an MD file, do you have to upload it directly into the agent or can it read the MD file from the repo or code base? You can read it from your documentation repository. So you would just have it at the root of your documentation repository. So if it's its own or the directory, so if you use a mono repo, it'll be in your docs directory. If you have a dedicated repository for your documentation project, just at the root level. And then if you are working in a mono repo, the agent will first look in your documentation directory, so you can have other agent MD files throughout the project, and it will find the one related to your documentation. This is a good question for you, Lynn. How do you ensure the agent will follow the style guide defined for the documentation?
The agent has like tool call access, so it's able to see what's like in your docs repo. So yeah, when it's making all these like tool calls, and is able to see like the style guide that you defined, so it's able to follow that like as it's generating new PRs.
Yeah, and I would again recommend you should review every pull request the agent creates and make sure that it adheres to your standards. Likely it will, but you are ultimately going to be a better judge of the content for your documentation project than, in my opinion, any AI agent. Yeah, what's the most recommended use case for the agent and agent suggestions? I'll share mine, and Leyland, if you want to share yours as well. Uh, I think my most preferred is actually democratizing contributions to documentation. I try to prioritize the most impactful user guides and also feature releases. And so I found that having agent suggestions has really been helpful for people who might not consider themselves writers, being able to get at least a pull request ready and share that to get it documented. So I really like seeing more people on my team being able to document what they create.
Yeah. I would say that the best use case for me is being able to uh really get like notified and see the new suggestions that are coming in, so that we're not missing new features that are being added, like so that we can update our documentation effectively. Also, as an engineer, a lot of times I don't see what's being updated in our docs. I think that it's really useful that our like agent suggestions when we merge a PR or create a PR for a docs update, it also tags the original author of the PR that it's referencing. So that's something cool where I can see uh, like my work going into our documentation.
Thank you.
Um,
And then there's a question about an example of an agents.md file. There is in our documentation about the agent a lightweight example of that. I will say that because it's customizing the behavior for your specific documentation project, a universal agents MD file is difficult to produce because the MD file, it's mostly configuring to your specific things. But at a high level, it's markdown. Use headers and bulleted lists, and you'll be able to give good directions to the agent.
quick question. So, if I am kind of the consumer of the documentation and I want to take a look at on last maybe 1 month what has changed because the engineering team keeps rolling out new features and I would like to learn about okay what new has come up. Um, what's the best way to get that information?
Yeah, I can take this one. So Right now with our autopilot suggestions, we don't have support for like a backfill. We only do a 1 week backfill when you toggle like a specific repo on. But you can also just look at uh, like the specific repository that you want to see the changes for, and ask the agent to look at the last like 1 month's worth of pull request and summarize the changes, because it does have access like to that data.
Nice. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. And there's another question. Is it possible to have a suggest button where Docs users can provide feedback and the agent checks and proposes a change? We do have a feedback tool, so users can leave comments on pages, on code blocks. We don't currently have a way that the agent addresses that feedback, but closing that loop is on our product roadmap. Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for coming today. Like I mentioned, this is recorded, so we'll be sharing both a recording of the webinar, some resources to sign up for a demo, contact us for more information, as well as some links to documentation about using the agent and agent suggestions. Appreciate you all coming, and like I said, please reach out anytime if you want to discuss using the agent or any other aspects of Mintlify. I hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you.